Dear students, now we are going to discuss about the wrist joint. Wrist joint, first type, it's ellipsoid variety of synovial joint. I already told you what is meant by ellipsoid variety. One articular surface will be concave, the other articular surface will be convex. Such type joints are known as one ellipsoid variety of synovial joint. Now, what are the articular surfaces? See here, the upper articular surface which is formed by inferior surface of lower end of the radius and articular disc of inferior radial joint. We'll see. See, this is the lower end of the radius. This is the lower end of the ulna. See here, this area, this is the inferior surface of the lower end of the radius, no doubt. Inferior surface of lower end of the radius. And here, this ulna is separated from this joint by this disc, articular disc. So ulna is not participating in this joint. Only this articular disc is participating in this joint. So here in the lateral side, inferior surface of the radius, inferior surface of lower end of the radius, then articular disc. Okay, so that first point is clear. Upper articular surface is formed by inferior surface of lower end of the radius and articular disc. Then lower articular surface is formed by three bones: scaphoid, lunate, and tricutal. See these three bones: scaphoid, lunate, and tricutal bones. So these three bones articulate with these two structures. Okay, this is what the wrist joint. Okay, so articular surface are clear. Now supporting factors like ligaments. Okay, first one, articular capsule or the capsule. Capsule, it surrounds the joint or it encloses the joint like this. See this fibrous structure, this is what the capsule. Actually we have to remove this capsule in order to see the joint. Okay, so capsule which encloses the joint. It is having one upper attachment and lower attachment. Upper attachment on the radius and that articular disc. We'll see that. Upper end is attached to the lower end of the radius and ulna. Lower end of the radius and ulna. Now, lower attachment to the first row of the carpal bones. See, to the first row of the carpal bones, upper end is attached to this radius and ulna. Lower end is attached to this radius. First carpal bones. Now, this fibrous capsule is strengthened by two palmar carpal ligaments and one dorsal carpal ligament. First, we will see what are the two palmar carpal ligaments. On the palmar side, two carpal ligaments are there. What are they? First one is palmar radiocarpal ligament, means from the radius to the carpal bones. The second one, what will be that? Palmar ulnocarpal ligaments, from the ulna to the carpal bones. Okay, so on the palmar side or on the front side or in the anterior side, there we are having two ligaments. What are they? One is palmar radiocarpal ligament. The second one is palmar ulnocarpal ligament. So first we will discuss about the palmar radiocarpal ligament. Its upper end is attached to the anterior margin of the lower end of radius and its childhood process. Lower end is attached to the anterior surface of first three carpal bones, or the scaphoid, lunate, and tricutal bone. We'll see that. See, this is the lower end of the radius. Okay, then lower end of the ulna. So here, this is the lower margin of the lower end of the radius. Lower end of the radius and its anterior margin. So it's clear. Anterior margin of lower end of the radius. Correct, no? Anterior margin of lower end of the radius. Lower end of the radius. Just a minute. Lower end of the radius is anterior margin. Okay. Now this anterior margin here in the lateral side, it is continuous with the styloid process. This small downward projection, this is a styloid process. So it is some fibers are arising from the styloid process also. So styloid process and the anterior margin of the lower end of the radius. From here, these fibers runs downward and inserted to the first carpal bones like a scaphoid, lunate, and tricutal. Okay, so that is what the palmar radiocarpal ligament. Now we'll see what is meant by palmar ulnocarpal ligament. Its upper end is attached to base of the styloid process of ulna and anterior margin of the articular disc. See here, this is the head of the ulna. Then we are having a small spine-like projection. That is what the styloid process. Okay, so it is attaching to the base or the beginning portion of the styloid process, not to the tip. Okay, this is downward projection. This is, imagine this is the styloid process. So here this beginning portion, it is a base of the styloid process. So these fibers are arising from the base of the styloid process, not only from the base of the styloid process. Here I already showed you the articular disc. See, this is a styloid process. So some fibers are arising from this region base and from this articular disc. So those 2 points are clear: base of the styloid process and the anterior margin of the articular disc inserted to lunate and the triquetral bone. Now on the dorsal side, there we are having one ligament. I already told you, that is what the dorsal radiocarpal ligament. On the dorsal side, or on the posterior side, from the radius to the carpal bone. Okay, so it begins from the posterior margin of the lower end of the radius. See, this is a posterior view of the radius, posterior view of the ulna. So this is the posterior margin. Okay, so it is arising from the posterior margin of the lower end of the radius. The lower end of that ligament is attached to scaphoid, lunate, and triquetral bone. See, this is a posterior border of the lower end. From here, it is inserting to scaphoid, lunate, and triquetral. So this ligament, this is what the dorsal radiocarpal ligament. Okay, so these are the features of that capsule. So capsule, it encloses a joint. Not only that, it gives 3 ligaments or 3 thickenings on the anterior aspect and palmar ligaments, and on the posterior aspect dorsal ligament. Okay, now in addition to those ligaments, here we are having radial collateral ligament and the ulnar collateral ligament. Radial collateral ligament extending from the tip of the styloid process of the radius. Actually, it is arising from the radius. That's why it's radial collateral ligament. So it is arising from the tip of the styloid process of radius inserted to the lateral side of the scaphoid bone. See, this is the radius, lower end of the radius, and here I showed you the anterior margin. Okay, and this one is a styloid process. So tip of the styloid process to the scaphoid bone. This is a radial collateral ligament. So like that, here in the medial side, or here in the along with the ulna, there also we can see another ligament. See, that ligament is arising from the styloid process of the ulna to the pisiform bone. This is an ulnar collateral ligament. So ulnar collateral ligament extending from the tip of the styloid process of ulna to the triquetral and pisiform bone. See this one. This is a ulnar collateral ligament. So ulnar collateral ligament, radial collateral ligament. So these are the ligaments of this joint. Okay. Now what are the movements? See this movement. This is a flexion, opposite movement. This is the extension. Then this movement towards the little finger. This is a adduction, and the movement towards the thumb finger, that one is a abduction. So these are the movements possible here: flexion, extension, adduction, and abduction. Then rotatory movements are also there. Okay, now we'll see flexion. What are the muscles helping these movements? Flexion mainly by flexor carpi radialis and flexor carpi ulnaris. Okay, then extension mainly by extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis. One is long, so longus, the other one is short, so longus and brevis. Then extensor carpi ulnaris along with the ulna. Okay, so this extensor muscle runs along with the ulna, so extensor, then it crosses the carpal bones, so extensor carpi ulnaris. Here it is related to the carpal bones and runs along with the radius. So extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis, extensor carpi ulnaris. Now abductor. Okay, abductor. What are the abductors? Flexor carpi radialis, extensor carpi radialis longus and brevis. Then abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis brevis. Adduction. Flexor carpi ulnaris and extensor carpi ulnaris. So these muscles you have to by heart. Now blood supply is supplied by anterior and posterior carpal arches. Then nerve supply supplied by anterior and posterior interosseous nerves. Okay. Then clinical anatomy, it is commonly affected by rheumatoid arthritis. Okay, so these are some of the important details of this wrist joint. Remaining details you have to read from your textbook. Okay, thank you.